Well, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Let's suppose this does go through tonight,
Which part, which way?
that they get reinstated. The people that are gonna be in charge, they're gonna be responsible. Their feet are gonna be held to the fire to make sure that this stuff is done right.
That's correct.
What guarantee do we have of that? Who's gonna monitor this,
Well, that's
other than us?
You gotta understand, the dilemma in me responding to that question is, we are a sole entity, we being Speedwell. We are an independent entity in this process. We have set forth the policies and procedures that have checks and balances in what you're alluding to. We invited the township to have somebody sit on the board or be a board member. We gave you an alternative policy that invites community members to sit in that board, so you could have community members, participate in this process. You could have township members sit in this process. We're opening our hands here and saying, you tell us, but we can't do anything but self-govern. We can't force you to do this or the township to do this.
The thing that bothers me, I was here at Township today to sign some papers, and we got a phone call in here from a resident. And she wanted to know what's going on with the fire department. So I told her what's transpiring, and everything that Michelle said was accusations. There's documentation. We have documentation, and we weren't bringing it up. We don't want to embarrass anybody, period. Now, she knew part of what she's hearing on the street. My answer to her was, you know what happened at Penn State? When somebody didn't tell somebody and yada, yada, yada. Okay? Let's suppose somebody has an accident, not drunk, under the influence. It's gonna get them, it's gonna get the township, and it's gonna get us. I will not be responsible for somebody's indiscretions. Not gonna happen. But that's the way it goes in today's society. Years ago, you could sit there and drink a beer, jump in the fire truck and go, and nobody cared. They care today. There's not too many, there's a lot of people looking and listening, period. You gotta be doing everything right, because if you don't, somebody's gonna nail you to the wall. And Michelle, I'm directing a lot of that to you because you're the mouthpiece here. I don't think it's funny. You got a smile on your face, and that kind of irritates me.
I don't find it funny at all. I'm trying so hard to word how to convey what I want to you. As said last meeting, the only thing that I can say is accountability. We have worked very, very hard to accomplish everything that was asked for us. And if someone would get into a vehicle after drinking, I would like to say every one of us would say, you're not going. Can I guarantee? I can't guarantee anything anywhere in the world. I would love to. Unfortunately, I can't. I can hold people accountable, and we can all hold each other accountable, but I can't guarantee.
This whole thing has to be resolved internally and watched internally.
Absolutely.
And if there's, it's not gonna be buzzing and somebody ratting on somebody else. This is for the good of the community.
Absolutely. I live here. I want the same.
So does everybody here.
But that's my point, Mr. Fox, is I want the same thing you do. I don't want someone driving intoxicated and harming if my child or
See,
anything.
there's some of what's going on here.
Okay.
Nobody was intoxicated. They're under the influence. There's a difference.
Okay.
And people are saying well, they were drunk. No, they weren't. We never said that. Nobody ever said that. That came out of whoever or whatever, just like intoxicated is a fancy word for drunk.
Okay.
So,
I wouldn't want anyone under the influence.
correct. Nobody does.
Right.
And what was past practice has got to cease.
Agreed. And just because we have done what has been asked, doesn't mean we are done. Mr. Bechtel is our attorney. And he's our attorney to get us through more than just this. We have things that need to be done. And we are seeking legal representation so they are done correctly.
I've got so many feelings about this. I want to see this fire department be part of the community. And on the other hand, it makes me a little nervous to find that the people that are involved, I've been saying since the last meeting, a leopard doesn't change its spots. Well, it's got to change its spots and be a lion maybe. So,
Maybe it needs a lion to lead.
well, that should be within your people.
It is. This is new. We're,
You know, I want to see this so
What's new,
bad.
Michelle?
what's new? Debbie, myself, Hannah,
But
and
we
some
had
of
the-
our board members. We have an attorney.
I understand what you're saying. My question, I think, is, maybe it's to Mr. Bechtel, maybe it's to the board, maybe it's to the Speedwell Fire Company. It seems like we're dealing with the same players year after year after year. You just brought it up at our commissioners meeting, you just blamed this on the old board of directors. And I wanted to yell so bad that it was not the old board of directors, but I didn't. You just went to the media and said you just never did nothing wrong. But yet I'm sitting here, right here with this folder, that had the full police investigation report, that I was trying to be man enough not to give to the media. It got blasted on Miss Laura LeBeau's radio show for it. Other media extensions, because we, the township, did not give it to the media. But you guys insist that you just didn't do nothing wrong. Again, the old board suspended people. What was the recourse for the actions that were done towards those people? Absolutely nothing. You just overturned the board and reinstated everybody when you had bylaws over there. Prior to that, the fire company was given a zero tolerance. It's right here in this committee report, zero tolerance. These we're all aware of. But it was a laughing joke. And evidently, the board, I got to commend you, Mr. Trotman, you just went back even through the old solicitor, Mr. Feeman, to March 11th, to 2011, where they were warned again. And we're still dealing with the same chief of police that got a copy cover of that letter. To me, it seems like it's the same people, the same players, just a new set of bylaws. And the old set of bylaws, if you would have adopted the townships like the township asked you to, you just wouldn't even need to pay the attorney for those. But you just didn't like our bylaws because you thought they were too strict. Why are you wrinkling your eyes?
If I could respectfully intervene, and the reason I said what I said earlier is we can keep going backwards and disputing some of the facts that have occurred over the course of time here. We can argue about first draft of bylaws or revisions of bylaws, but I guess to your comment prior, I mean, are we not focused today on the solution and where we go from here and with the leopard changing its spots? I mean, again, what we set forth before you was a clear and concise plan on how to do that, to address accountability and correction measures and oversight and transparency.
But you had that.
No, respectfully, no. I don't want to make this an argument, but respectfully, no. When I got on board here, there was a employee handbook that was provided to them. That was a township employee handbook. So when I first reviewed this matter and the information that was provided to me, I don't necessarily disagree with the comments of bylaws and materials. They were just dedicated to an entirely different entity. I think we're misunderstanding that the Speedwell is a standalone entity here. They are not a township. They are not a paid fire company. So again, I'm not trying to play lawyer here on you, but respectfully, there's a lot of things in there that weren't applicable or just incorrect as to how they could even govern and function themselves. So again, when I got involved here, the intention, and we did this very hastily, was to clean this all up, address your concerns while self-governing simultaneously.
So had we been more definitive with the policy and procedures, these guys would have known not to drink and drive?
I think it goes one step in that right direction. I mean, again, the comment before, I wanted to say before is, you can bring in XYZ Fire Company and do the same thing. It's not gonna absolutely prevent this from happening again, but I think it puts a lot more accountability on the process, those who are making the decisions, those who are determining punishment and discipline. It gives you a lot of avenues or controls to be able to address those things that were simply just not in place before. They were non-existent. And if I'm wrong with that, I apologize, but I was not brought aware or made aware of any of those prior policies, procedures, manuals, bylaws, et cetera. Now we have all those things. To address your prior comment, what greater accountability measure is there than a giant microscope on the Speedwell right now? I mean, isn't that the best accountability measure? I mean, if they do it again, shame on them. I'm the first one to raise my hand.
If they do it again, someone may get hurt.
I respect that, but XYZ Fire Company can do the same thing. They come in with all the same policies, procedures, and
We're
microscope.
not talking about XYZ, we're talking about this, the deal we're dealing with now.
My gut reaction to this is, I would like to see this happen. I would like to see it happen. But I just don't know where to go with it in my own mind and my gut feeling. My gut wants me to say, yes, let's do this, and give them 30 days, and come back and show us that it's being done right.
I respect that. I like the idea. What would you want to see?
Well, at the end of the 30 days, I would want to see that nothing else has happened, that that place over there is cleaned, the people in it are doing their job, they're having somebody in charge, and they're the rank and file, in other words, and doing what they need to do. We're not out here to crucify anyone, really. But this is something that I've never run into in all my years in the military. I just never had anything like this.
So if the Speedwell was going to give you that commitment tonight,
For my-
whatever conditions you want to put on that,
Well, the conditions are in their book, in their bylaws and what have you. It's there, the zero tolerance.
which they're ready to roll on all those things. We've been ready to go since January. That's why I interjected. I don't want to make this a debate, but
I'm
And I have a
gonna
problem with
be
that, I
quite.
have a problem with that, Mr. Foss, because it's been there prior to that.
Yeah.
So this saying it's there doesn't mean nothing, Mr. Bechtel, I hate to see that. It's-
well, no,
I wanted to add
And if I
something.
looked at those bylaws correctly, I think the bylaws you even wrote for them, you have a spot in there where it says you are allowed to drink, but you can't drink on fire company property.
I don't recall what you're saying, so you can tell me. I can't, the Speedwell can't, again, this is a private entity, you can't prohibit somebody from drinking wine at their house. I don't want to get into that debate.
No, we're not getting into that debate either.
But, Mr. Brenner, we addressed the fact, there is a part in there that does say there is no alcohol at the fire company. That part is,
Supersedes that would be the townships.
right, but that is different than further in where it says no tolerance, zero tolerance. But I know at one point you had stated that you had concerns about that. So we addressed that issue with no alcohol there at all. So that, you're right, that part is in there.
Talked to you before about the definition of the word impaired.
Yes,
I think that's really important because the research that I did, I looked at several different kinds of boards that define impaired, and it's 2 drinks. After 2 drinks, it's widely considered that your judgment is impaired.
at this point, with the zero tolerance, there's zero. There's zero.
I was gonna say the same thing. I think the final version of that after your comments, if you don't have that, is that there is zero alcohol is zero alcohol. The impaired is out of the picture.
If you're going to have a
Okay.
cookout and have alcohol, you don't go in the hall.
Right.
Alcohol comes in.
I'm surprised they need the policy and procedures manual to know they shouldn't be drinking and driving though. I would think with 7 people involved, somebody would have said.
Somebody should have said something.
I agree,
But the 7 people are still in that fire company, correct?
That's right,
yes.
So there was no recourse.
that's right. Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm gonna make a motion that we go with the ordinance as it was written to the state's Ebenezer Fire Company is a full-time fire company for West Lebanon Township this time.
There's a
I have a
motion.
motion on the floor.
Second?
Can I ask a question? Am I asking a question? What's the purpose and intention of the committee meeting then?
Well, I'm taking my motion right here, right off their recommendations.
Well, that's inconsistent with the report, respectfully. Again, that's not what this report says. We're
You know,
passing the
That's your opinion, I have my opinion.
Doesn't the township, the people in the township have a right to vote on it?
So my question simply is, the ad hoc committee, if you will, was established to intervene or mediate this process. I don't want to use the wrong terminology here. A report was provided and delivered today, and now I'm hearing something that's contrary to it. So I respectfully request, or I ask the question.
The recommendations, Mr. Bechtel, is what I'm looking at. Prior to the consideration of reinstatement of the Speedwell, the West Lebanon Township Commissioners should meet with North Lebanon Police Department to view the police report they're talking about here in this statement, the way I'm reading it, gathered during their investigation, which we already reviewed it, which Mr. Trotman didn't realize that.
Okay. So
Second statement is the Speedwell engine host company must have professional fire service supervision,
So
and I don't see it.
so
I'm sorry.
My question in response to that, if I'm understanding, you're making a motion to pass the ordinance, would be this part of the conclusion or the recommendation which you just recited, when I, being a designated member of that committee, and Mr. Testerman being a designated member of that committee, this was never discussed. There was never a discussion, an opportunity to respond. That's why I raised the very first question I raised today was, this subject was never discussed. We talked about policies, procedures, and mechanisms to reinvigorate trust in the Speedwell. We didn't get into the nuts and bolts of the investigation. I've never seen the investigation from the police, and neither has anybody from Speedwell.
Mr. Brenner, at our executive meeting, you said we needed to accomplish 3 things, and you would work with us. We needed our bylaws redone, we needed policy and procedures, and we needed a code of conduct. We did those 3 things. And we're saying that we're willing, like, we're extending our hand to say, we're willing to work with you. We've done what you've asked to continue. Billy was part of the committee.
Who asked you to do anything, Michelle? The township never even asked you to do that. You just went on your rampage when you were found guilty of the drinking part and went and hired an attorney.
You're right. And
There's a
did
police
we
report.
not have an executive meeting in that back room?
The press like the
where you
police
said
report?
3
I don't care. Does everybody want the police report?
Mr. Brenner, why are you getting so upset when I'm trying to
I'm
pull
listening.
you out of my
I'm just
commission?
asking if somebody else wants it.
But you were becoming very hostile as my commissioner. You
I would
are-
like a copy of the police.
I'm asking you a question. You set 3 things for the fire company to do. Not you, but the board. The bylaws, code of conduct, and the policies and procedures. We've done those. You set a committee up, including Mr. Pflueger. We met 1 time, and that is all. Not due to lack of anyone's willingness to meet. My husband's part of that.
I was on that committee, Michelle.
I understand that, but you're willing to take the committee's recommendation. He was a part of the committee. Mr. Pflueger, did you see this report before tonight?
No.
So how can Mr. Pflueger or Billy have
I'm
anything
familiar with
to
the
do
history of
with
the fire
this?
company, though.
But-
Well, did the
but-
committee, there's 3 names on the committee out of 5, correct?
Out of West Lebanon Township, yes.
No, there's 3 names on this committee report.
Right, and I think what she's saying is there was more members of the committee than the 3 names.
Yeah, there was two other committee
Right.
members, correct?
That had never seen this report. And other than the January 30th meeting, had no contact with Mr. Troutman or the rest of the committee.
I don't know.
Why did you set up a committee to do the things that were asked of us to do and do them, and then not have the committee not have the full committee actively participate?
Mr. Trotman, maybe you can answer that.
When the Board of Commissioners,
Give me the first person.
keep that.
Yeah, this way, we did it like that, Mike, for.
I understand, that's all, just make clarification. I guess on that note, is there anything that the Speedwell can do to have you reconsider reinstatement in the future? And I frankly struggle with this as counsel. I don't know where to tell them to go next, because we have all this stuff instituted and in place, but it means nothing if they're not providing firefighting services, because they will essentially be forced to disband. I don't know how they're gonna continue to conduct, so they're getting community grants that they can't use the money for now because they're no longer operational.
Where are the officers of the fire department now? Why aren't they speaking up? You know, we have one mouthpiece. Everybody else is standing back here buzzing.
Because you
But-
addressed me, sir, and we agreed that only Mr. Bechtel would talk, and then you addressed me, so I talked, but
I just wondered, I don't know anybody
Right.
that belongs.
Tina's not here because she's,
I
as
know
you
where
both
she
know.
is.
And some of our other, the flu has hit. I mean, unfortunately, I asked them not to come because I know Phylis can't take anything home. So I've got 2 or 3 people that aren't feeling well, and I would rather they not come. I think the support that we've had the last couple meetings showed that we are being supported. I mean, my husband works, he can't be here. I don't know, the support is there for us, I don't know what more to do.
Dwayne, what would be your response to his question? What can be done, and is there anything to be done? Or was this threefold thing, was that it? Was that, you know, the fact that this is the 3rd time that this happened?
You're
Is
asking
that-
for my opinion?
I am asking for your opinion as a professional.
Well, I can tell you, I'll put it in context like this, and members of the Speedwell, please hear me on this. Back in the late 90s and the early part of the 2000s, the Rescue Hose Company was the subject of municipal action that closed the firehouse in an extremely difficult time. It wasn't done for wrongdoing, it was a disagreement over the provision of fire services. We struggled with that, and we made good on it, we made things better, we got a new mayor, and we're gonna handle things in the public eye as far as that. To me, this isn't an end of the Speedwell, no ordinance is permanent. You've gotta find a way. And that means either reorganize, get new people, and come back at them, because I know for sure, no one in this room, including me, and I have nothing in this. I mean, by the way, the Ebenezer paid me a lot of money to do this. But in my opinion, from what I saw, you've got to find a way. Sit down with the supervisors and learn what they learned. I think, especially the 7, you know the truth. And the truth wasn't apparent. And I was disappointed as I looked into this, because I took no pleasure, and neither did Larry, and neither did Captain Mendoff. We really struggled with this. We struggled with it, but we felt a duty to respond to the task that was provided to us by the supervisors. None of us live in the township, and there's a way. There's certainly a way out of this, and that's the.
Will you help us?
Sure, I'm totally open.
If that's what it takes to get us back, help us do what we need to do.
But they're also saying, the ones that are in charge shouldn't be.
So I have a question.
You got one good right there, back there. Connor, I respect you very much, very, very much. And actually, you should be higher up on this list than what you are. That's what that fire company needs to show.
So as she comes to meetings, she can be hired. I don't do the voting, all the voting. I
I'm
only
just
have one
saying,
person.
I mean,
John, I would love to have more people to pick from. I would love for a ton of, this whole room to become members, so we have people to pick from. I'm all for it.
I think that's the struggle here, and again, from a legal perspective, I don't wanna make it legal, but you're asking an independent entity to govern in a way that it's not built to govern. You're asking that you hand select those, they have to be voted into office, that's the way
Right.
these companies
But I have
function.
to have people to vote.
So to say, oh, I want Johnny and Peter to be vice president and president, I respect the heck out of what you're saying, it just internally doesn't function that way. So-
no, I'm not talking vice president, I'm talking your fire chief, the leadership of the fire operations. That's what scares me right now,
Bring people to us.
big time scares me.
Bring people. There, I would love to say we have 20 firefighters and 10 of them are qualified to do this and 5. Chicken, you know I would, like I would love that. I
we work with volunteers and what we have. And you're saying, and I'm not saying I totally disagree at all. I'm saying there's bylaws in place, even from before. There are reasons that things have, she's not right now, I mean,
So we'll revisit this.
I guess
Commissioner Traub, are you gonna help them out?
I'd be glad to help them out. I'd be glad to help them out. As I said during the first meeting we had, when I assumed this position and put on these white shirts, I wanted to speed well. I divided the city into geographical areas, because I believe in calling for the closest units. I believe in building partnerships. And I would argue, I would submit, and I think the older Speedwell members would agree, we build a relationship with the city.
and I agree.
If the Speedwell hears something going on in the 06 box, and they hear us getting a little excited, they're putting on their boots and they're moving, and I appreciate that. I'm gonna miss them. They were first in, why not call them? How could I, as a, and this is an issue that I'm addressing in other poorer areas of the city, we gotta work together and build relationships, so I'm more than happy to help the Speedwell. They did a very good job in the city, not one single complaint about the Speedwell, not one, because they did a good job. But I also have to say from the outside, the Speedwell has an unfortunate reputation for this very activity. And that's unfortunate.
It is.
So if there's something I can do to help build a relationship and to bring this matter back before the board,
And as you said, the firemen are good, they've never had any problems, they do what they need to do. You need some other things. So tell me what this means for Speedwell as we stand here right now.
You have a question or a comment back there too? please?
I'm assistant engineer, Rob Clemens. I got a question for you. Since we can't run calls, but we need supervision according to your, can we maybe be put on your boxes and you watch us, your guys watch us?
Mutual aid?
Well, I have-
All we wanna do here is run.
I understand.
And how are
But
we
we
going
can't.
to, if, how can we get supervision? How can we do all the things that are being required so
We
that you
can't
can
prove anything
see?
by just sitting there.
And I understand that, and I'll answer that in 2 points. I don't think the Speedwell could respond into the city because as of right now, they're not recognized by the township. That's temporary. What happened tonight isn't permanent, it's temporary. We all know that, and we all know those 4 elected commissioners, always was the supervisors, those 4 elected commissioners want you back in service. Everyone in this room, there's not a single person in this room that wants you out of service, we know that. But Michelle, I have to tell you, what scared the living daylights out of me through this whole inquisition was, it isn't what didn't happen, it's what could have happened. What if that fire engine going to North Holland was in an accident, had 0 fault? Someone made a mistake, someone panicked as they do when we approach, and someone else caused an accident and the fire engine was involved. We know for a fact that Speedwell members were drinking, that were drinking and drove those 2 rigs. We know that for a fact. So now there's an accident. Chief Easter knows, probably beat blood alcohol, with a large vehicle, township policy. And you can bet if any amount of alcohol was found in that driver's system, and, chances are the fire truck's gonna win.